So I know you've heard about it. Who hasn't, right? All this Tylenol controversy and does it cause autism? Does it contribute to autism? All these things that probably have you very confused and a little frustrated. So today, what I'm going to do is break this down for you to help you understand this whole issue, basically from the political side of it, from the physiological side of it, and then from the practical side of it so that you can make informed decisions. Let's go. Hey, Mama, you have found your way home. This is If Mama Ain't Healthy, Ain't Nobody Healthy, and I'm your host, Lori Morris. I'm a Christian wife, mom, and midwife, and I'm so glad you're finally here. I know you're tired of feeling bounced around the system, never feeling heard or understood, and you're sick and tired of feeling sick and stuck. Whether you're trying to conceive, pregnant, or in the months and years after pregnancy, I want you to know I'm here to help you find your way out of confusion and into true wellness by working with God's beautiful design, not against it. From your physical health to your emotional and spiritual health, there is no topic off limits as we walk together through all seasons of motherhood. So if you're ready to step out of the world's way and into God's way of living well and loving life, take a short break from changing diapers and cleaning the kitchen again for the third time today and sit a spell with me. What you learn today could change generations. So clearly I'm not at my usual location. This week I'm at a business retreat in Florida. So that's why things look a little different and I'm not quite as put together maybe as I might usually be, but I really wanted to go ahead and record this issue while it's fresh and while I had the time because I know so many of you are frustrated and so many of you are confused. And so I've had a lot of you reach out to me, ask me questions. What does this mean? What do I think? And so I thought I would tell you in an episode. I'm going to try to bring a whole lot of information in. This one might be a little bit longer than usual. I'm also not quite as organized as usual because it's actually all on notebook paper, not how I usually do my outline. So it might be a little bit scattered, but I have gathered information and taken notes from lots of different things I've seen from lots of different people. And I kind of want to bring it all together for you today so that you can understand this. I'm going to look at it from a political perspective, then from a physiological perspective, then from a practical perspective for what you can do given what you know now. Okay? So let's get into it. I'm not doing a review today because I really, like I said, don't know how long this is going to go, and I'm not quite as organized on the computer as I normally am. So bear with me. Let's get into this. Okay? So I didn't even write down what day this all happened on, but you all are very aware that there was an announcement made in the last several days about the possible connection between Tylenol and autism. Okay. And they came out initially saying they were going to talk about a cause of autism. And I don't know that anybody knew for sure that it was going to be about Tylenol or whether it was going to be about vaccines or what it was going to be about. But they put most of their focus in this particular press conference on Tylenol. Might have been a surprise. I will say that they mentioned several times this is just the beginning. Okay, so I want you to keep that in the back of your mind that while Tylenol was the focus here, please understand that Tylenol is not the only contributing factor here. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to go through what different people said in that press conference. I actually went through and watched the actual thing, not the sound bites. And so I want to help you just kind of get an overview of what each person said in that press conference. So first was President Trump. I've really been a little off put by how many of the people who are attacking this whole situation were like, well, why was it the president talking? Well, he wasn't the only one talking, and obviously he's not the medical one in the bunch, right? But he spoke in his normal way of speaking, and he shared some pretty interesting information if you paid attention. So he first started talking about the increased prevalence of autism, okay? And we all know that autism has gone through the roof. Around 18 years ago, he said it was either 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000. Either way, it was a very, very small number of kids that were having autism just 18 years ago. We're still talking about in the 2000s, right? We're not even into the 1900s. Okay, so this was not that long ago. Now, the statistic that he quoted was 1 in 31. That means there's one in every classroom, just about. Even worse, in California, there was a study that showed that it was 1 in 12 boys. 1 in 12. Okay. And if you're watching the video, I have my computer screen down here and it looks like it's glitching a little bit. I apologize for that. Hopefully the audio is good. So autism occurrence has gone up 400% since 2000. Interestingly, he pointed out that in some countries where they don't do vaccines and they don't take pills, there's no autism. Specifically, they highlighted the Amish community, which I go visit an Amish community every 2 weeks, and I can tell you that I've never seen an autistic child there. I have seen some other situations, but very few, very, very few. So just take that for what it's worth. He said, and I quote, acetaminophen is associated with increased risk of autism. Okay. Associated. A lot of people got all upset and said that he said it caused it. No, he said it is associated with. And these other professionals are going to tell you a little bit more about it in just a minute. I'll go over those things. He addressed the fact that we are pumping newborn babies full of so many shots. And you know that I have a problem with that. And I know many of you have a problem with that. It just doesn't make sense why we would pump so much into these young children and young babies so early and so fast. He addressed that maybe there needed to be no mercury or no aluminum in vaccines. I'll try to remember when I get to the physiological part of this talk why that will never happen. I'll help you understand why that'll never happen. He talked about the MMR, how those three things, measles, mumps, and rubella, should be separate in separate shots. I don't even think you can get those right now in separate shots because the manufacturers don't make them anymore, but that they should be because it seems like there's less problem when they're all separate. Again, very good principle there. He mentioned how hepatitis B is given to newborn babies, but hepatitis B is a bloodborne illness that is spread by needle use and by in a sexually transmitted manner. Okay? No babies are involved in these things. I always hear the argument, but what if mom has hepatitis B? Well, if mom has hepatitis B, thing one is you're probably going to know it. Thing two is the vaccine isn't going to do anything for that baby anyway. What the baby needs is what's called an immune globulin, not the vaccine. Vaccine is preventative. If the baby's already been exposed to hepatitis B, the vaccine doesn't do anything. Okay? So even that argument is weak. Okay. So that is just a highlight of some of the things that he said that I wrote down that I thought was worth sharing. Then he moved on to let the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., speak. He emphasized that this is just the beginning. They were coming to us to share something that they had discovered in their studies, but this is just the beginning. There will be more, and he is going to keep us informed. So if you are thrown off by all the controversy by this one, get ready. There will be more. So he said that the HHS and the FDA were responding to potential association, again, not cause, potential association. So everybody that got so upset about Tylenol, he never even said it was truly causative. And there's just an association that has been noted in the studies. And this association is between Tylenol and autism and ADHD, which are both neurodevelopmental disorders. He noted that due to, and this is in the political part, right? Because we're talking about the actual announcement, and this is the politicization of this situation. Due to the politicization of this medical situation and due to that impact on the science, the safety of Tylenol against the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in children has never been validated. They've never looked at it. And they also mentioned how all these organizations have been working separate from each other. So you would have HHS over here and FDA over here and CMS over here and all these different people and NIH over here. And nobody was talking to each other. Instead, now they are all coming together and working on this issue together. There's also, he noted, strong evidence of Tylenol's liver toxicity, both in children and adults. And using Tylenol in children, really in adults too, but he specified in children, actually can prolong viral illnesses. So many of the arguments that are being made about why you would take Tylenol are actually not that great anyway. Y'all, I know how hard it is to know if something being sold to you online is worth anything these days because there is so much counterfeit junk floating around. And beyond that, it seems like everybody has a course to sell you. So I want to help you make an informed decision about your childbirth education the same way I want you to make informed decisions about everything in your maternity care. That's why, for a limited time, I'm giving you free access to the first module of my Christian childbirth course. You can see it for yourself for free for a whole week for absolutely no charge. And you don't even need to enter in a credit card number. The first module is going to give you a look at the underpinnings of the whole course, which is God, the creator of everything, including the creator of pregnancy and the birth process. He made it. So we should look to him for our guidance. And the first module lays the foundation for that. If you're not familiar with me, I'm Lori Morris, and I'm a certified nurse midwife. I used to be all medical, and I worked in the medicalized maternity care system. But with time, I saw the truth, and I became a midwife who attends home births and who had all her babies outside of that system. That gives me a unique perspective because I've been on both sides. I can help you understand what happens on the medical side while fully preparing you for the natural side, including how to navigate decisions and interventions while also wrapping you in scripture to remind you of God's truth, that you are made to do this no matter what the world says. There is no other course out there like this one, and I want you to see it for yourself. Go to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/course free trial and get signed up today. Again, that's go.yourbirthgodsway.com/course free trial. He mentioned that folate deficiency may cause autism or may impact autism, may contribute to autism. We're going to talk about that when we get into the physiological portion here in a minute. 60% of folate deficient children with autism spectrum disorder can be improved and have verbal communication with a drug they mentioned called leucovorin. Okay, so that is giving us hope that there is potential improvement out there for some children who have autism. He mentioned again, that autism has a multifactorial etiology. What does that mean? It has many causes, not just one. So again, all this outrage about Tylenol, it's just one. There's others. We're going to find out a lot more. He also mentioned that they are now listening to mothers rather than gaslighting them and telling them that what they have seen in their own children isn't real. I know you've heard those stories. For many, many, many years, moms who have witnessed the change in their child have been told, oh no, it wasn't that. You just weren't paying attention. Or, oh no, you just didn't notice that they really had something going on. It wasn't the shots. That's just a coincidence. And they knew that wasn't right. And now this administration is actually listening to them. So now they say they're going to do the studies, or he says they will do the studies that should have been done 25 years ago. And that's very encouraging. Next up was the NIH director, Jay Bhattacharya. He highlighted that they will be launching an autism data science initiative to study autism. He mentioned that genetics alone cannot explain the sharp rise in autism from 1 in 10 or 20,000 to 1 in 31. Genetics haven't changed that much, that fast. Now, remember, that was only in 18 to 20 years that sharp rise happened. So there's something else going on, and they are going to be looking for it through this data science initiative. Then the FDA commissioner, Marty Makary, got up and he mentioned that there is a shift in medical culture now. And that is a good thing, by the way. He said that they're going to be asking why kids have gotten so sick so fast. Kids used to be very healthy, and now I think over 50% have a chronic illness. Why has that happened so fast? That's what they're going to look into. They're going to be updating labels for acetaminophen. They mentioned that the Boston Birth Center and the Nurses Health Study both noted consistent associations between Tylenol use and autism. Again, I'm going to explain this in a minute, so hang in there. If you're like, yeah, I've already heard all this. I'm going to explain the physiology so you can understand why this is. The dean of the Harvard School of Public Health said, quote, there is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and neurodevelopmental disorders of ADHD and ASD. So he said, or that dean said there was a causal relationship, and that is science-based from Harvard. This is not just anybody saying this. They would not say that if they did not have a good reason for saying it. There is an those things together, plus some other many other studies, they noted the FDA commissioner noted that there's an overwhelming body of evidence that points to association. There's a Hopkins study that showed that treating fever prolongs illness in children, as I mentioned a minute ago. And again, he mentioned leucovorin. He mentioned that autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin of folate to get into the brain cells. That's interesting. We're going to talk about that in a second. Okay. Then Dr. Oz got up. He's the head of CMS. He didn't really say anything that hadn't already been said, so I didn't write anything down for him. But I did want to note that he was up there because I want to note that all of these heads of all these agencies are working together. They're actually talking to each other and they're bringing the data together. And that's why we might finally get some answers. Interesting note before I move on to the physiological perspective. Back in 2017, Tylenol themselves, Tylenol is the brand name for acetaminophen. They made a tweet back when X was Twitter still. And I think it must have been in response to something that somebody asked, but this is what they said. We actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Tylenol said that in 2017. Okay? This is not a new issue. It's just that it's just now coming out. Okay, let's make a shift now into the physiological perspective. I came across a very, very good video. I shared it in our Facebook group. If you're not in there, go join it. But it is from a PhD named Dr. Christina Parks. She has her PhD in cellular and molecular biology, and she did her studies in the Department of Immunology. I don't know how much more relevant a person can, their qualifications can be. Okay. She studied at the University of Michigan, and she's been studying the childhood vaccine schedule for 10 years. Okay. She said, to explain how this all works, and this is going to be a little bit segmented because I'm going to say what a few different people said so that you can try to put it all together, because I think there were several different explanations that I saw. Of course, I had an explanation as well, but these were a little bit clearer than what I would have probably come up with to say. Okay. She says Tylenol depletes glutathione. Okay, glutathione is a major antioxidant in your body, and it is there to take care of inflammation when there is inflammation present. Okay, so glutathione must be present to clean up when there is inflammation or when there is toxic load. Okay, but Tylenol depletes glutathione. Okay, so that means it makes it lower, makes there be less there. So if you have a depletion of glutathione, while you have an insult coming from a toxic load like in a vaccine, that toxic load also causes inflammation, you can see how you've got a perfect storm for damage to happen, especially to the brain. She said that glutathione depletion can lead to sepsis, or it can lead to a child passing away, or, as we've all heard, the term SIDS. Okay. She said that vitamin C can help resupply glutathione. She mentioned that when there is a deficiency of glutathione and there is inflammation present, that the body cannot handle that cellular stress. And so the brain inflammation that is there, because the brain is part of the body, right? So if you've got inflammation present and there's inflammation in the brain as well, which it can happen when there is heavy metals injected into the body, as in the case of vaccines, the glutathione, if it's not present to help clean that up and take care of it, it can obviously lead to neurodevelopmental disorders. Another way that glutathione is depleted, she mentioned, is immune system hyperactivation. So immune system hyperactivation can happen when you've got vaccines on board, but it can also happen just with sickness in general. But with vaccines, they lead to that immune system hyperactivation. Severe infection, again, can do the same thing, but that also leads to the depletion of glutathione. Okay, so if you already don't have much glutathione and now you have this hyperactivation present, it takes care of the rest of the glutathione. Then what's going to clean up the inflammation and what's going to clean up the toxic load? Any form of active immune activation depletes glutathione, and that again includes shots. She mentioned that the combination of Tylenol plus the shots depletes the entire glutathione supply, so the body can't fend off that brain inflammation, which can lead to the neurodevelopmental insults, impacts, disorders. If glutathione is depleted and inflammation continues, it burns through the body stores of vitamin D, vitamin A, zinc, and glutathione. Okay, that's one aspect. Now I'm going to read something off of my computer from a friend of mine who I was in nursing school with. So that was between 2000 and 2004. She and I were in nursing school together. She obviously is an RN, bachelor's prepared RN. She may have her master's too, I'm not sure, but she knows the medical side of things. She understands the medical side of things. She had a son that had this happen. That son is now almost an adult, I believe. But she has dealt with this firsthand up close for many years. Okay. And she and I are in contact quite a bit. And I wanted to read, I asked her if she would share some of her information just that I could share with you because I knew that she had done a lot of research. So I want to read you what she sent me. This is about the MTHFR mutation. You've probably heard that term, MTHFR, getting thrown around. Maybe you haven't. But MTHFR mutation is a change in one of the genes that makes your body not able to use folate in the same way that it needs to, or in the way that it needs to. I'm going to read this rather than trying to explain it because it was a little bit more succinct and a little bit more clear. MTHFR mutation. About 40 to 70% of people have an MTHFR genetic mutation. That stands for methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. It's an enzyme in the body that manages a chemical reaction involving vitamin B9, also known as folate. There is more than one type of mutation in this gene, but for this purpose, I'm keeping it simple. Folate is important because it helps the body make red blood cells and is essential for DNA synthesis and cell division. During pregnancy, it is important for proper neural development. Think spinal cord and midline of the body. That's why doctors tell you to make sure you get enough folate during pregnancy. If you have the MTHFR mutation, then the synthetic version of B9, known as folic acid, can actually block cell receptors and keep you from being able to absorb vitamin B9 appropriately, thus affecting everything above that we just said. Folic acid started being used in vitamins and in enriched processed products, think like breads and cereals, in the late 1900s. In the late 1990s. At that time, we saw an uptick in midline abnormalities, which are like tongue and lip ties, stork bites, sacral dimples, spina bifida, this kind of thing. Okay, so let me pause right there. You've probably been told you should take a folic acid supplement. If you are one of the people that has this MTHFR mutation and you didn't know it, and you take folic acid, it increases your risk of all these midline things that they told you the folic acid was actually preventing, but actually it can contribute to it and make it worse. Okay, so let me just stop right here and say, if you are pregnant, go look at your supplement right now. If it says the word folic acid on it, throw it away and get one that says methylfolate. Methylfolate. If you don't know how to find that, you're going to have a link in the description for this podcast that will give you a way to get a supplement that has that in it, because your body doesn't know how to use folic acid and it blocks your ability to actually absorb folate from your foods or from your supplements. Okay, continuing. Side note, it's always been best to get your nutrients through food, as that is how it is best absorbed by the body. Avocados are an excellent source of natural folate, and they look like a pregnant belly, just like walnuts look like brains and carrots look like eyes, etc. Nature is cool, she said. If you want to take it as a vitamin, skip the folic acid form and consider methylfolate instead, or see the next point. The prescription presented yesterday that can help with autism recovery is a form of folate called folinic acid. It is another chemical variation of B9 that has shown success in allowing people with genetic B9 issues to absorb it and utilize it in the body. The way I heard, I think it was Jay Bhattacharya or maybe Marty Makari describe it, is it basically goes around the blockage and gets the B9 into the cells without having to deal with the fact that that cell receptor isn't working right. Where was I? Since B9 is so key to functions in the body, you can see why better absorption can lead to better outcomes for individuals. So that's why HHS is recommending that particular prescription. If B9 levels in the body are low, it can cause decreased production of glutathione. Again, what we talked about. Glutathione is a master antioxidant in the body. It is the main key to your body's ability to detoxify. Lower glutathione means toxin exposure in the individual will cause more damage than in a person with normal glutathione levels. Acetaminophen, brand name Tylenol, lowers glutathione in the body. Okay. If your glutathione levels are already low, it creates even more challenges getting toxins out of the body. It also crosses the placenta. Got me? So, to be on the safe side, the upside of avoiding acetaminophen is higher glutathione levels, so you and your baby have a better chance at eliminating environmental toxins that can cause neurological damage. Furthermore, when you are sick, glutathione plays a role in helping you heal. That's why President Trump was so adamant about avoiding Tylenol. So, how do injections play into this? Excuse me. Lots of us mothers claim we saw our child regress after routine vaccinations. Yes, I know that correlation does not mean causation. Problem is, so much of the science is simply not being completed. So, what could be the mechanism of harm? Look up the vaccine ingredients. You will find antibiotics, heavy metals, chemicals that open the blood-brain barrier, biologics from animals and humans, and even things like chemical dyes. Some of these ingredients are known to disrupt gut health and be neurotoxic. Some are carcinogenic. That means they cause cancer. The argument is that such small amounts, the argument is that it is such small amounts that the body can get rid of them. But what if your detox system in your body is impaired? Furthermore, the adjuvants in vaccines, typically aluminum, which is also a known neurotoxin, can cause inflammation in the body. Without inflammation, the vaccine won't cause an immune response. But inflammation can trigger all kinds of downstream events in the body depending on the current toxin load and the genetics. The above is why the president suggested breaking up how many doses you give your child at a time. There are no good studies on what happens when giving multiple vaccines at once, even though they give up to 6. And by the way, just because you see only one needle going in does not mean they're only getting one vaccine. These vaccines have multiple different agents in them, and multiple different diseases are being supposedly vaccinated for. Okay, so just because you only see one needle and you're like, oh, I'm only getting one, they may be 3, 4, 5, 6 different things in there, or different diseases being given. Okay, so there are no good studies on what happens when giving multiple vaccines at once, even though they give up to 6, sometimes even 8 doses at a time. For clarity, the DTaP would be 3 doses because it has 3 different infectious illnesses in it. The old ACIP committee decided that vaccines were generally safe to give multiple at a time if they were, quote, put on in a different limb. There isn't any science to actually back that statement up. So if you're being cautious about toxin load, then breaking up injections into fewer doses at a time is a way to manage how much the body is being exposed at once. Common sense would say you wouldn't get measles and mumps and rubella all at the same time in nature. So being careful about it in clinical applications would be most logical. Okay, now let me get into a little bit of what she said there and why I said earlier that vaccines will never be made without aluminum or mercury or something. They may call it something different, but it's going to be there. Here's why. When you come across something like measles or mumps or rubella or chickenpox or whatever in nature, and it goes into your system, there are several layers of your immune system that are activated as soon as the immune system sees it. And that first stage creates the inflammation that your body needs to realize that something is wrong and we need to get to work. Okay. So that inflammation, that's why inflammation is actually a good thing, because you need that inflammatory process to be able to activate the rest of your immune system, which is where it's going to go to work getting rid of whatever has made you sick. God made a beautiful, beautiful system to work well. So you come across whatever thing that is going to make you sick, right? You come across measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, whatever. Excuse me. Inflammation happens, the rest of the immune system goes to work. Okay? When you get a shot, that first level is skipped because it's going straight into your system. Okay? It's not coming through your nose, through your mouth, through your skin. It's not doing anything like that. It's going through, past the skin into your muscle or your subcutaneous tissue, whatever the case may be. So we're skipping a whole step of the immune system that God put there to work. Okay? So that first step puts the inflammatory process, it puts it in motion. Okay? So you got the inflammation that starts. Since that is being skipped, these shots would not work or would not work well if all they did was give you that little piece of measles or that little piece of mumps or whatever. Okay? If all they did was inject that, nothing would happen because your body wouldn't notice it was there. Got it? So they have to put in some other things to basically irritate your body into realizing something is there so that it will mount the immune response that is needed to create the immunity that you're going for by getting the vaccine to start with. Okay? So, what does that? Things like heavy metals, like your aluminum or your mercury. These things create an inflammatory response on purpose so that your body will mount the reaction to the whichever thing you're injecting. There is a word for this. If you can't tell, I'm struggling. There is a word that I cannot come up with right now. Forgive me. So, the aluminum or the mercury or whatever other thing they come up with, there will always be something there designed to cause inflammation, because if it's not, the shots truly will not work at all. Some of them work a little bit for a little while, not as well as your natural immune system. But the only reason they even do that is because of that activation of the inflammatory process. So you see now why I say when they say they need to have them without mercury or without aluminum, that'll never happen. It's because it will never happen. Because that's the whole reason they have any effect at all. Anyway, okay. I think that's all I had for the physiological perspective. I hope that made sense for you. Now let's move on to the practical perspective. This is what you can do. Many moms are feeling a little bit scared. Many moms are feeling like, oh no, what have I done if you've already taken Tylenol? So let's talk about what you can do if that is you. First of all, I need you to breathe and realize that you didn't know what you didn't know. Okay. And if you take on guilt, that will have a negative response on a different level, on a psychological level. I'm reading a wonderful book right now called Mind Over Medicine that you're going to be hearing more about. And one of the things that she talks about in that book is how carrying guilt from making bad decisions by itself can impact your health. So I need you to breathe, forgive yourself, and pray that God will help your body to overcome any insults that may have been done. Because honestly, beyond that, what can you do? It's already done. Okay. But that being said, there actually are a few things you can do to boost your glutathione. I have, by the way, put together a plan inside of my full script that has these supplements in it. And so there's going to be a link for that down in the show notes so that if you feel the need to boost your glutathione, you will have a nice, succinct place to go get everything. So look down in the show notes for that link or on my website or wherever. Okay, so how can you boost your glutathione? Well, how can you increase your glutathione? Well, you heard a few minutes ago vitamin C mentioned. Okay, and so vitamin C tends to help that. Of course, we all know that vitamin C is something that, we've always known helps our immune system. Maybe we didn't know why, but now we know that that is one way. Another thing that you can do is you can give your methylation factories key ingredients. So methylation is something, or methylation is something that I'm not going to go into here, but that is the process. It's a little bit messed up when you have MTHFR. Okay, and by the way, most people don't know if they have that mutation. Okay, so it's better just to operate like you do. It's not going to hurt you to operate like you do, and if you do these things, you'll basically be addressing the problems that they could present. So, what are those key ingredients? Well, methyl B12 is one of them. You can get this in a nose spray, you can get this in oral or in an injection. In the plan that I put together for you, it is in a pill form and a complex, a B complex supplement. So, you'll get it there. B6. B6 aids in the production of glutathione. It's a precursor to it. Methylfolate, as I mentioned earlier, it's a B vitamin. You can get a whole lot of folate through your diet. So I'd always encourage you, just as my friend Janie did in what I read to you, I'd always encourage you to get as much of this from your actual food as you can because your body's going to know how to use it even better. But if you feel like you're not getting enough from your dietary sources, if you go look up online sources of folate and you're like, I don't really eat those things that much, then get you some methylfolate, not folic acid, not folic acid, not folic acid. By the way, this is another reason to stay away from processed grains and processed bread, cereal, cookies, all that stuff, because all of those are using enriched flour that has folic acid added to it. Even more reason to start using fresh milled flour, which I talk about all the time. Did episodes on it, been on Sue Becker's podcast, she's been on mine. Go back and look for that. If you haven't heard it or haven't seen it, it's all there. Uh, as if there weren't enough reasons. There's another one. And then another thing that you can take is something called NAC or N-acetylcysteine. And that is also a precursor for both cysteine and glutathione. So your body can use that to help you build more glutathione to replace any that you've lost or to correct a deficiency. Okay, let's talk about alternatives to Tylenol. Okay, because Tylenol's always been the thing that's all being told to pregnant moms they could take, and for pain or for fever or headaches or whatever. Okay. And now you may be feeling like, whoa, I don't have any choices now. What am I supposed to do? Okay. So let's talk about what you can do. Thing one, let's talk about fevers. Is a super high fever dangerous for a baby? Yes, of course. Is it dangerous for a baby that's in utero if mom gets a dangerously high fever? Yes. But does the fever exist for a reason? Yes. God put it there for a reason. When your body gets sick, when it senses something is there that's not supposed to be, and it mounts this immune response, part of this is creating this increase in body temperature, which is an inhospitable environment for the toxin, not for the toxin, but for the disease to live in. It can't live there. And so you need the fever. And so if you have a fever and you're always treating it, that is why viruses and different things last longer, because you're getting rid of one of the steps of your immune system's way to make you better. So a fever in and of itself does not need to be treated. It's only if it gets dangerously high. And even then, there might be other alternatives. But if you have a dangerously high fever, I'm saying like over 104 degrees, then the risk benefit analysis might tell you that it might be okay to take a little bit of Tylenol But even that is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because when you have the inflammation of the inflammatory process, or you have the inflammation of the immune process going on, and you take Tylenol to get rid of the fever, you're also taking away your glutathione, which is going to clean up the inflammation. So you're really going to have to think this through and decide, what risk am I willing to take? Okay, and talk to your provider, by the way, about what are some alternatives. They should be able to give you some ideas. There's a lot of things that you can do, and we're going to talk about some of those. But for fever by itself, I just wanted to say that might be a time that you might decide it's worth the risk. Okay? But we're going to also talk about, let's do all we can to make sure we don't end up with those fevers, okay? So, other reasons for taking Tylenol are pain and headaches, okay? A lot of times we're getting back pain and things like that in pregnancy, and things are hurting and aching because our body is changing from having a big old belly, right? But many times those pains are coming because we are not as strong as we ought to be. Our bodies have not been kept in good working order. So I would say one big thing that you can do to prevent ever having the pains is to keep yourself in good shape by walking, by doing some light weights, by making sure you're not just sitting around all day. Okay? Because these things are going to predispose you to having aches that you're going to want to treat. Okay? Exercise is always going to be a good option for you. Even if it hasn't been your habit up until now, I don't recommend going into a high intensity exercise program, but walking is great. It's great for your circulation, it's great for your baby, it's great for your health overall. So, incorporating things like walking and some light weights could work wonders for keeping you from having the soreness to start with. Now, you might get a little soreness at first when you first start, but you know what I mean, like the aches and the pains from just things hurting. Okay? Other things, sometimes you'll have pain from round ligament pain from the weight of your belly. You can wear belly bands, you can use K-tape, you can do things that will help lift that weight so that your back doesn't have quite as much strain on it, so that you don't have the aches and pains from that. Also, magnesium, electrolytes, hydration with those electrolytes, hydrate. B vitamins, as we've already mentioned several of them. All of these things help a lot with headaches and with just aches and pains in general. Okay. So you're going to want to make sure you're getting plenty of magnesium. You're going to want to make sure you're getting plenty of hydration with your electrolytes. You're going to make sure you're getting plenty of protein, plenty of B vitamins. All of these things are going to help prevent you from ever even needing the Tylenol to start with. And they can even, in some cases, help treat it once it's there. Good ways to get magnesium besides just oral supplements, although oral supplements are definitely one you can do. Magnesium is very well absorbed through the skin. So an Epsom salt bath is great, not only for just the relaxation of it and the health that that brings, but also because it's going to absorb through your skin and give you a better absorption in general. There's also herbal remedies out there, and there's so many people, so many places that have herbal remedies now. So you're going to have to do your research to see what's safe and what's not. But there's lots of options out there for that. Heat patches work, or heating pads, but they need to be relatively cool. I know that doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. Not super hot, because again, you don't want your body to be getting too hot. You got a baby in there, and especially if you're putting it on your back, then that's kind of close to your uterus, so you want to be careful about not getting too warm. But sometimes a little bit of warmth can help to relax your muscles and can help it to not be as painful. There are different topical treatments, like there is topical magnesium, there's topical lidocaine that you can get over the counter, all kinds of options like that. I want to throw in another thing, and I don't talk about this much on this podcast, but my husband and I have a CBD company. We grow hemp, process it ourselves, and make our own CBD products. We make CBD oil, and we make CBD bath salts, and we make CBD salve. Okay, so if you're if you're not pregnant, then any of those products are safe alternatives for pain. But if you are pregnant, our CBD salve is kind of amazing. And I would say that that would be a good, I actually personally make it myself. And I would say that that would be a good option for muscle aches and pains. That way you're getting the benefits of the CBD and the other. I put a bunch of essential oils in it. It's all natural ingredients, almost all organic ingredients, and it will just absorb into that one little area. It doesn't go systemic in the same way that the drops would. So if you're interested in that, you can always send me an email. I'd be glad to give you more information about that. I actually was going to give you the link to our website, went to it just before I started recording this, and for some reason it's down. So I'm having to fix that. But in the meantime, you can email me if you have questions about that. There's, of course, always options like massage therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture. So many choices out there of things that you can do. I would say that if you're having recurrent headaches and recurrent pains, you want to get things like your iron levels checked just to make sure there's nothing else going on that needs to be corrected. But you can do things also like putting ice around your neck. I used to do that. I haven't had migraines in years, but I used to do that. I would take a cold rag, like ice cold rag, and put it against my neck, and that would help a lot because it would basically cause vasoconstriction, so there's less blood going up to cause that throbbing pain of the migraine. But you can do ice, you can do cold compresses. Rest is, of course, always going to be good. Make sure you're getting plenty of sleep, by the way. Work on your sleep hygiene. Go to bed when it gets dark. Get up when the sun comes up. Live with the sun the way God made us to live. Because sometimes these headaches will come on from just the stress of being sleep deprived. There's so many things. Homeopathic remedies. There's things like red light therapy. There's so many things, y'all. So many options out there that you can try that are going to be safe alternatives that aren't going to put you at risk of glutathione depletion that comes from Tylenol. Okay. I didn't like on one hand what Trump said about women need to just kind of suck it up. It is hard being pregnant sometimes, and I know that. But at the same time, when you persevere through trials, you do get stronger. And so I would encourage you to remember God's design and to remember that you are stronger than you think. Now, a few more things that I think that you really, really need to do. Okay, so just drawing some conclusions here, bringing it all together at the end. First, I want you to realize this is all big business and it's all political. The reason you're hearing so much pushback against what was said is because of who said it. I say sometimes, and I wish I didn't have to say this, but I think that if President Trump had a 100% no side effect, completely effective cure for cancer, and he told everybody about it, that people would be dancing in the street saying how great cancer is. I mean, it really is that crazy these days. So understand that all the pushback you're hearing is not pure. It has a lot to do with who's saying it and the administration of the person who's saying it. So because of that, you really have to educate yourself. Because if you don't educate yourself, you're not going to know the difference between truth and fiction. Okay? Do not get your education from the alphabet agencies. What do I mean by that? AAP, ACOG, ACNM, CDC, NIH, all these people, because at least before now, most of their, before now for CDC and NIH, that is, the other ones are still deeply, deeply into both political influence and also financial influence from drug companies. You've got to understand the impact of bias, and they are heavily biased, and you can't see it if you don't know to look for it. Okay? You see these organizations as being there for your good. They're not. If they were, we wouldn't have the highest incidence of things like neonatal mortality in our country. But I digress. That wasn't in my notes. Get your education from places like these books I'm about to read to you, or not read to you, but list off to you. There are links for all these in the show notes. Okay. One is Vax Facts, What to Consider Before Vaccinating at All Ages and Stages of Life. That is by Dr. Paul Thomas. Excellent. Vax Unvax, Let the Science Speak. That is by RFK Jr. and Brian Hooker, who is an MD. Vaccines, Autoimmunity, and the Changing Nature of Childhood Illness by Dr. Thomas Cowan. the Vaccine Safety Manual for Concerned Families and Health Practitioners. It's the second edition guide to immunization risks and protections. That one is really good because it goes vaccine by vaccine, goes into the ingredients, goes into all these different aspects that have been studied. It's a pretty thick book and the print's really small. A lot of information in there. And then the last one is called Turtles All the Way Down: Vaccine Science and Myth. The title's a little funny. He explains what that means at the beginning of the book. So all these also are available audiobook. I know most of you are busy moms, so if you're like, yeah, when am I going to read a book? Get Audible. If you'll go through these links and sign up for Audible, you can get these. I think you get one free book with each month's subscription, so you can get them all one by one and listen to it. Great way to get the information without having to sit down and read when you got little ones and you just don't have time to do that. Okay. All right. So we're going to realize this is big business and political. Educate yourself. Avoid Tylenol and really all drugs, by the way, because how many times do we hear advertisement after advertisement after advertisement of how good some drug is, and then 5 or 10 years later we're hearing the lawsuits that came out and how it's being pulled from the market. Okay. Just because something is told to you to be safe does not mean it is. They don't study these drugs the way that they should. And I need you to understand that you are going to need to stay away from as many medications as you can. Avoid shots for the exact same reasons. If you decide you are going to do the shots, space them out as much as you can. Try to find somebody who will offer them separately. And if you take them, do not take Tylenol while you take them. For years and years and years, the doctor has told you to pre-treat with Tylenol. So we were pre-treating ourselves to be at a lesser, in a lesser position to deal with the toxicity because we were depleting our glutathione because they told us to. You see what I'm saying here? You've got to own your own health. You cannot blindly trust anymore. Sorry, I just put that up in front of the camera like that. But you can't. Sadly, you just cannot blindly trust medical professionals anymore. That is one reason why I offer the health coaching that I offer now, because I'm helping women like you own your own health, feel better, not be sick, get rid of your chronic illnesses. That's what I do now. So if this has really struck a nerve with you and you're like, I can't do this anymore, I've got to be more prepared, I've got to get myself and my family healthy, maybe one-on-one coaching is what you need. If it sounds like something that you need, head over to morriswellnessservices.com/apply and fill out a quick short application so we can talk and see if this might be something that would help you. Personally, at this point in history, I believe that everybody needs a health coach who is not in medicine themselves, because there is just too much junk to sort through. And almost none of it lines up with the way that God designed our bodies to work. I put a focus on God's design for our body with all of these issues so that you can learn how your body works and you can learn how to get in line with that so that your body will be well. I hope this has helped you today. I know it's a little long, but I hope that now you can kind of see through all this and make a little bit of sense of what's going on in the news. And now you will be better prepared to make better decisions for yourself and for your family. I'll see you back here next week. If you were blessed by today's episode, please take a minute to share it with another mama friend you know needs this info, or post a screenshot on your Instagram stories and tag me so I'll know you loved this episode. Then come hop into our Facebook group to find your people and have some like-minded support throughout your week. Also, I'd love it if you'd head to YouTube and subscribe to my channel. You can find links for all of these things in the show notes. I'm so thankful for you, and I look forward to hanging out again with you right here next week.